Everybody, it's a Sunday morning, March 23rd, 2025. It is beautiful outside. I don't know what the temperature is. My little widget here used to show the temperature. Now it's telling me the temperatures are going to drop. So apparently it is 60 degrees Fahrenheit out there, right? 63 degrees Fahrenheit out there right now, which is absolutely beautiful. It's got a high of 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Um, so that's nice. It's going to be a beautiful day. I felt so sick yesterday. I had a test. I did my paralegal test. I got a 92 and a half. But I wasn't feeling particularly well. There was like it was 40 questions. There was four questions that were um, like, it was like either, like it was multiple choice. So there would be like four of them. Two of them were wrong. And then two of them were like, technically this is correct, but technically this is true, And so I'm like, you know, like it's either true and incomplete. So is it still true, or it's like, so kind of like being like, you have to have four cars to drive to the grocery store, four tires to drive to the grocery store, true or false? And if you said true, and then it was like no, false, because you needed to wear pants too. It was just like, the statement is true. You still need four tires whether you're wearing pants or not. Um, but it just depends on what they're. So, anyways, I got half of those right. So I got two, and then I just misread one. So I got 37 questions right out of 40. Um, so that was a success. I think I have an A in the class. There was one thing was there was a post and we needed to respond to it, so I responded to it. I don't know if I got like a perfect score, but that's 10% of the grade, and that's half of 10% of the grade. So that was 5% of the grade. So I think as long as I got like 8 or 9 points on that, or four, 3 or 4 points out of five, or if I got a 5 out of 5, that'd be perfect. Um, so, anyways, I think I have an A in the class. I got another part of our grade is our attendance, and and that's a pass fail. You either get 100% on that or you get zero. And I don't know what percentage of the class is, but basically, I think we've done about 45% of the class, and I think I have an A average so far. So that is good. Um, so I'm trying to, just from 30,000 feet, basically, we want these to sort of lay out in a better way. Right now, what it does is it just by default takes whatever position it is and adds some left to it. But what we want it to do is when it sees that it's full, that it lays these out side by side until it sees that the row is full, and then it adds it. Or yeah, the columns are full, and then it adds that. So step one at the top is the viewport width. So I believe we have the viewport width, yes. So step one. So I'm just going to use variables just to kind of make things make a little more sense, just so that they're a little more readable. So our first variable, or const, is going to be um, let's go with the create visualization. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind is that writing in here, in this visualization service right here, in here, all it does is figure out these numbers. It doesn't actually lay it out. All the actual layout happens in the animation, I believe. Um, I believe so. Basically, we're writing here to this thing all we want, but there's some other code that does all the reading and updating, and that's because the we want this. We don't want this to update more than 60 times per millisecond. So we're kind of hooking into something called the request animation rate. But the first thing we need to know is what our position in the world is, right? Like, so we want something different for this guy versus where this guy. And so his position is 0, right? So the position, or yeah, I'm just going to say viz position. and that's going to be equal to this dot visualizations. I feel like that should be visualizations, plural. Does that break anything? Well, that definitely is going to break things. Let's comment that out. Okay, so our viz position is going to be the length of the array. So that's weird. Okay, so basically if there's nothing in the array, then this is the 0th position. If there's one thing in the array, then this is the first position. And so our viz position is that length. So what I'm expecting to see is, okay, I'm going to comment this out. Viz position. So what I'm expecting to see is a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. Let's go ahead and look at our console log. So I don't know, like if you've been watching me code for a while, I think the one thing that, like, when I first started coding, everything was like what I'm doing. So viz position is 0 every time, and that's because we haven't added any. And we haven't added any. Okay, so I'm going to push this into the visualizations. And there's just so many things going on here. Like, I don't know how to do this. I haven't done this very often. So one thing to keep in mind is, like, when I first started coding, all my coding was exactly like this, where it was very timid, a few steps forward, few steps backwards. But with time, what happens is you start to do sort of the same things over and over again. So you can just skip steps. But it's only because you've done that specific thing over and over again, and you have to be able to, like, A, recognize how well you understand something, and B, skip steps if you're capable, like if you have enough experience in it, but don't skip steps if you don't. And that is a hard thing to learn. But so I'm going to add my visualization to visualizations. So now what I'm expecting to see is different positions, I'm hoping. Yep. So that works. So the world is as I see it. It seems to agree with me. My inputs of data match up with what I had imagined in my head, and that is an important thing to do, because what'll happen is you will get off. Though what you think is happening, it will not be what is actually happening, and then the farther you go down that path, the harder it's going to be to sort of rectify it in the future. And sometimes people work on code for years and they have the wrong idea, and like they're like, oh, every time someone changes this, I'm miserable. But anyways, I think we also need to add our ID. I don't know if I'm using that visualiz. I think I'm using the visualization IDs somewhere. Push. It's visualization ID. So I don't know if I'm using this or not, but now I don't understand. Oh, that get got in there. That's the name of a function. So yeah, right now, if you feel like, if your sense is, man, this feels like I'm a jellyfish just floating around wherever the jet wind takes me, you're exactly right. That's exactly what's happening right now. I have a general idea what I want, but I don't know exactly how to get there. So I am sort of just meandering there, and nobody knows everything, so sooner or later you're gonna have to meander. It's just one of those things. All right. And what I could do is also, yeah, I guess I should just validate the visualization IDs is working like I think too. Um, let's see. We should just get an ever-growing array of, yeah. So 49, 49, 50, 49, 50, 51. So these are the IDs for each one of these visualizations, which a visualization is basically the thing that describes its layout. And it's basically hard coded to like 150 or something every time. When this is done, it'll all be the width of that. So I don't want that. I just wanted to verify the visualization IDs is working like I was expecting. So the next thing is, okay, so we have its position. And now what we want to know is, so I think, yeah, so we want to do, so right now I think we can set the left, right? At least silly. So basically, okay, before we can set the left, actually, we need the width of the actual. So I'm going to say const viz, and this is something we actually want to store. Width is equal to, so literally all we're going to do is write the width to this, and it doesn't really matter if we write it 1,000 times or one time or whatever, because writing to memory is cheap. And I don't even know like if they have some way of optimizing writes when you're just literally rewriting the same value in there. I don't know, but I want to be like, when I'm using any functions in this visualization, I want to be like, I know all I do is write things and calculate things. I never interact with the DOM. And then in my renderer, that's where I interact with the DOM. Or in animations, I interact with the DOM. And there, I know I never want to call those functions outside of just letting it happen on every request animation frame. So that has to stay separate in my mind. And I believe that is like sort of the original thing that made React such an amazing library, was that it does that for you. It has like two versions of the DOM. It has like a in-memory DOM, and then a heavy DOM, a DOM that knows how to do things like update screens and stuff like that. And they only interact with them when they only interact with them at their appropriate times. But anyway, so I think last time I figured out that my element has a thing called a, see, so it's kind of a bummer. It's not giving me any of my stuff. And then any of the help from the thing. And that's because it doesn't know. So ChatGPT, see if ChatGPT can help me with this. What is the type? TS type for a DOM div. HTML div element. So I think I can do this. I can say HTML div element. And I'm kind of surprised that it let me do that, that it didn't make me force it. But now I think I have access to things within it from my IDE's contextual, ELE dot. Yeah, and so that, okay, I just want to double check. So that was not there. Was I just using the wrong one? If I get rid of this, I don't think that's there. And this is the kind of thing that changes all the time. Like, things will just suddenly stop working, start working. It's one of the major, yeah, see, so we don't get any help unless we, now I know that there are some versions or maybe some configurations where I've had to actually force this because it could be undefined, but it's letting me say that. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know why it's letting me say it. And that might be weird to you, but this is the very latest version of Angular at this given time. So anyways, if I remember correctly, it was like rect or something. How do I get the width of a div in JS? Offset width. So I think I can just say offset width. Okay, so they should all have the same width. And I don't know why this is fun for me, but I find this to be one of the most fun things you can do. And wow. So this is not right. Looks like, yeah. I printed out the wrong thing. Control V, C. Yeah, so they're all 200. So that's awesome. And this is actually something we want to store. So in our visualization, so this is our visualization object, and we are going to say dot st width. And I'm purposely being sort of, I wouldn't do it this way in a professional thing just because it can be a little disturbing and a bit of a distraction. But I'm doing it this way here because it's better to learn with. So one thing a lot of JavaScript developers, when they're first getting started, or maybe even after a while if they've never really dug into it, is like I am pushing the push viz into list. Okay, now let's just say array. All right. So I push this here, but then afterwards on line 56, on 53, but then afterwards on line 56, I change something in there. And so it can be a bit of a, it could be hard to understand that when I push this in here, this width was 0. And then 3 lines later, I update the width. So what is the width of the object in the array? And the width of the object in the array is going to be this width, because this visualization here and the visualization that's going to be inside of the array they both point to an object, the same object. So when you change the object in any context, it changes for all of them. That took me a long time, took me years and years and years to sort of fully understand. And my life as a JavaScript developer, literally twice as good, way better. A lot of the really confusing stuff just freaking goes away when you understand that the object that's inside a visualization array is the exact same object as this object here, which is the same object as this object here. So anytime you make a change to any of them, it's the same one. They're all using the exact same one. But if those had been strings, that would not be the case. But anyways, so now we have our width. I guess I want to console log the whole component, the whole visualization. And here we go. And we have our width. So now we actually do have enough information to do something, right? So we've set the width of each one of these, and we have this visualization. So now I feel like I want to come in here in my renderer service. Is this where I do layout stuff? ST renderer. Well, maybe not. Okay, let me go to the app. And I mean, I hate to change gears at this point, but this is the moment that we can actually get things working. Okay, so this layout loop is where we want to do stuff. And then, so we go to animation service, this visualization layout. Okay, so it wasn't in the, so over here, yeah, so this is happening every 60 seconds. Okay, so we only want to change something if these hashes have changed. So now let's circle back to that. So we are just going back. Basically, the hash should change anytime we make a change, so that this thing doesn't have to do updates if nothing has changed. So let's go back to our visualization surface. Love you too. All right, so we got our visualization half service and a rendered layout hash. So basically, this is blank. This rendered hash gets changed anytime anything is going to change it. So let's make our, so we're just going to, we're not actually going to do a hash. We're just going to do no, we do need to do a hash. Okay, so this is like a whole different a different set of a rabbit hole. Okay, so I want to hash. See what this says. Oh, that's pretty cool. Subtle crypto API built into the browser with. So I feel like I'd rather use the one that is built in the browser. Okay, so I guess I need to create a service that in Angular. Okay, so I want to have my own hash service. So, so yeah, so now we are in a new, just a whole different rabbit hole where we're going to start creating a hash. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this array and I'm going to turn it into a string. I'm going to JSON stringify it, and then I'm going to set the hash based on that. So anytime I create a visualization, I'm going to update the hash based on this string. Now in the future, actually I'm going to change it based on the viewport width, the viewport height, and this to a string. So I don't know what that's even called. Hash string. we're going to create a hash string. Create hash string. So this is the string. This is the base string that will decide that will be used to generate a hash like this. So basically, I'm going to say just, and I'm going to be like this. It's going to be the width plus viz height I don't think I have a height, right? Plus okay, so I'm going to do this. String. Hello. Oh, and I don't have a viz height. It might be a little confusing what I'm trying to do, what I'm working at right now. I will sort of here in just 1 second. I'll just stop everything and kind of explain what's happening. And this dot visualizations. I don't think I think I want to. I think the way you do this is you go like this: JSON dot stringify. I don't think we need, so that's going to be a string. So this is basically, we're going to take the current width, the current height, and the current list and turn it into a hash. That means that we'll be able to tell if something has changed. So if the width changes or the height changes, the hash will get recalculated. And that right now that's technically not true, because we don't have any hooks on width and height changing, but we'll add something like that a little bit later. Right now this is just going to get updated every time you actually add a visualization. But so that string, if I turn it to a hash, and we don't, if we turn it a hash, what it'll do is make it smaller again, because this JSON stringify could get huge. But we want to take this string, we want to convert that to a hash, and then we want to store that in this rendered layout. And so now anytime in animation service, anytime it sees that these two are different, it'll say, oh, okay, something's changed. I need to update the screen. But if they're identical, then it'll be like, okay, don't worry about it. Everything's the same. So I hope that makes sense. But basically, all of this is all just to avoid doing these sorts of calculations that I'm going to expect to be done in visualization, from locking them into the renderer, the animation renderer. And then in the animation renderer, I just want it to be looking things up and not trying to actually do any calculations. So I'm basically decoupling those sorts of jobs. One of them updates the data and the other one updates the screen. And so that means that if something happens that causes, say if I do this, like if I were to grab it and I just move this back and forth like this, that's probably 200 or 300 events per second. I don't want it to update the screen 200 or 300 times. And if I update this like 50 times before it updates the screen, that's fine. And it should not throw that weird bug about the screen not being able to update before that. That seems to only happen when you're interpolating on the screen. It gets upset if something changed and the screen, like let's say something got calculated, you're showing the width, but you only want to show the width 60 times a second, because if it doesn't, if it were to update and you can't even see it, what's the point? So we've limited it. Well, Angular gets very upset about that. You only showing things, but when only rendering things when it changed. But anyways, that's a lot. This is something that doesn't happen a lot in Angular, because Angular is really more of a business type of project, for building business type stuff, so you don't have like these really, gaming sort of issues that show up. But anyways, 30 minutes, that's a good amount of time, everybody. Happy coding. Bye.